love that music. Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Just Talking Business. This is a live show, and today we are talking to another creative. You know how I love talking to creatives because I really want the world to understand that there is a business behind this creative space. But this gentleman has actually written a very interesting business book, and I want to talk to him about it. His name is Lemar Ingram. Let's not tally. Hello there. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Is the word tally or dally?
I think it's Dally. I
Oh,
think it's Dally. I think it's Dally.
sorry.
Mm,
Oops.
it works.
Um, so thank you for joining us today.
My
I
pleasure.
mentioned briefly you were an author, but I will open up the floor and ask you, who are you and what do you do? Let's start with
Who am I and what do I do? Okay, so I'm a sales professional.
that.
But in reality, I'm an artist. I'm a writer. I'm a poet. I'm a rapper. I'm a lot of different things. I'm jack of all trades and master of some. To be fair,
Exactly.
master of some.
That sounds like creatives. The creatives.
Exactly.
Do it well, but they figured out. I think we figured out business in a much more unconventional way, which sort of brings me to your book. If I understand correctly, we talked about it briefly before. Um,
Mhm.
your book is a business book, but you're
100%.
using the tools learned in the hip hop industry as
Mhm.
the guide to teach people how to become business owners. How did you decide that this was the book that you were going to write and why? Like what was the inspiration?
So I'll tell you how it happened. I was always academically inclined as a student, going all
Mhm,
the way back to high school. But more than textbooks, more than class, I like rap,
mhm,
and I buried myself in rap lyrics. Huge Biggie fan, Tupac,
mhm,
'90s golden era, Nas, and what I realized is the influence that these people had on how I made my decisions.
mhm.
Um, I'd like to believe it was a good thing, but at times it was a bad thing. I made decisions based on what I thought they would do, as
Yeah.
opposed to what was logical choice.
Mhm,
And then looking back, I mean, I was fortunate enough. I come from a double parent household,
mhm,
stern Caribbean parents, so
mhm,
they straightened me out when it was time to get straightened out.
mhm,
But
mhm,
then looking back, I saw the influence it had on me negatively, but then I started to focus on how it influenced me positively and how I reference certain things, certain mantras, certain lyrics. And I started to realize it's a guiding principle for my life.
mhm, mhm.
Um, what brought it to fruition is I think in 2019, I was listening to Biggie's last album and I was in the 10 Crack Commandments. And I'm like, why isn't there a song about how the 10 Commandments of business or the 10 Commandments of how to make it without selling drugs? And I wrote, like, I always write these little think pieces on LinkedIn. And I wrote it and I called it, I wrote me a manual. And then after I did that, I think maybe I want to say 18 months later, the book started, and it just flowed out of me.
So
It
that was
just flowed out of
2019.
me.
So it roughly took you what 3 years to complete?
No, so I wrote the article in 2019,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
2022. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No. I wrote the article in 2019. 2 years went by with no thought to it, and
Uh-huh.
in 2022 Thanksgiving. So just to give you some context, my mom was a writer. I say was because she passed away that year. And
Okay.
around the holiday season, I was kind of sitting at home and I wanted to connect with her. She was the
Mm,
glue to the family and she was gone. So I started to write to feel better. And it took me 4 days to write the entire book.
really?
4 days. Because it had been floating around in my head for 2 years.
That's so
So
long.
it sat there. I just
Mhm.
never wrote it down. And I just wrote it 4 days,
How
nonstop.
long? How many pages is the book?
So in reality, it's a lot of things. It's not just a book. So let me put it
Okay.
in context for you.
I saw
Um,
that.
it,
Glad you're bringing that up.
it's 82 pages in total. It's
Okay.
82 pages in total, but 40 of those pages are blank. And why are they blank? Because the book is written for a specific audience. This book is for the kids who listen to rap and for the
Oh.
young adults that listen to rap more than they listen to anyone else. The people who
Okay.
memorize lyrics, the people who play the song on repeat, these people who are kind of like obsessed with hip hop, right?
Mhm,
And I know that it's short attention spans, quick messages, strong punchlines.
mhm,
Also, there has to be an audible element to it. So when I wrote the book, I thought of the entire process. Number one, you have to write these short. quick messages that get to people, number one. Number two, people who love music in general are audible people. So I spent a lot of energy into creating the audio book and syncing it in the book. Every chapter has a cap of 500 words. So it's a quick 2 minutes max, about the length of a song.
Mm-hmm.
And in each chapter, there's a barcode you can scan from your cell phone that
Mm-hmm.
allows you to listen to the audiobook with song reference. It also takes you to
Oh, nice.
a website. Yeah, and it also takes you to a website that allows you to get contextual. Because remember, I'm 45 now.
Right.
So my rap music isn't the rap music these kids listen to.
Absolutely.
So when
Absolutely.
they hear it now, it's like, I'm gonna give you context. This is the album it came from. This is where you can go to get the music. I even put the links to like Tidal and every other type of streaming platform where you can go get the music and listen to it to provide
Mhm.
context. And in the back of a book is also a part where I say, okay, now write your thoughts about each chapter. It's not meant to
Okay.
be read cover to cover. It's like a workbook
It's meant to
included.
be an interactive experience.
Exactly. And only after you go through all of the chapters and write how you feel about the chapters, then the book is complete. And when the book is complete, then you go back and read it cover to cover.
Okay, see, because that was one of my questions is you need to explain that audiovisual experience, but that's cool. I actually like
Absolutely.
that idea because it really does get you to lean in. And I feel like from that, you ultimately could create more products, if you
Correct.
will, off of that.
Absolutely.
And is that the plan?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the goal is to have the person interact with the material. It's
Okay.
not just about you read it or you listen. I don't want you to hear my voice. I want you to hear your voice as well and apply the context. A lot of times, books don't have context to your life. So
Mm-hmm.
people don't connect, right? So you think about it. Of course, it's easy for the 45-year-old guy who's been through it to tell a story. Who's going
Mhm.
to really listen? Let's think about 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Am I going to listen to the 40 gray hairs? Come on. Who's
Right.
listening to me, right?
Nah,
But
nah.
if you take the snippet and then you take your life experience and you apply it, all of a sudden you start to realize that the lessons are timeless. You
Mm-hmm.
realize that there might be a song today that's not my song, but it's your song that applies that energy for you. And once you put the whole thing in context, do the workbook on top of following in the book. Now you have this complete experience that kind of it calcifies things for you, right? It brings it all together. A lot of times, too, people they I hear my little nephew say it all the time. I feel some type of way. That's one of the
Right,
things that
right, right,
really,
right.
really upset me because I'm like, what is some type of way? Use your
What is
words.
that
What does
way?
that mean? Right. And the thing is, a lot of energy isn't actually put into articulating how you feel.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And by breaking up the book into these segments, it forces you to just take a moment and write down how you feel about a song, how you feel about your day, how you feel about a circumstance. And in articulating your feelings, you're able to realize two things. One, it's all within your control. And two, you can proactively change it.
Okay, so this is interesting because it
Mhm.
sounds like to me it could apply to almost a variety of different target markets. There is a
It can.
component that speaks to an entrepreneur, there's a
Hmm.
component that speaks to an artist, there's a component that speaks to maybe someone struggling emotionally and needing some form of therapy. So, how do you market that book then? Who, I mean, it seems like, I mean, who are you talking to and how are you talking to them?
So you market it slowly. You pick your poison, right? You market it slowly. The easiest market for me is the young urban person getting into the corporate world. There's a
Okay.
lot of hurdles you're going to have to go over. You're going to enter an environment where very few people look like you or even act like you, especially if you're a hip hop head. There's not going to be a million people in the boardroom or in any setting looking back at you with the same type of life experience that you have. And the
Mhm.
thing is, it's funny. You could learn how to sell drugs. You could learn how to make drugs. You could learn how to operate a gang from rap music, right? That's what
Right,
people take from it. But in
right.
the reality, the principles and the lessons of leadership are the same. A leader is a leader is a
Is a
leader.
leader. That's true.
An entrepreneur is an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur. One of the biggest jokes we talk about at work is like, these guys that sell drugs, these guys that do
They're
all this bad
entrepreneurs.
stuff, they're entrepreneurs and
They're
better,
entrepreneurs.
they're better businessmen than most businessmen. The
Right.
problem is they do it illegal,
And they're
right?
selling the wrong product.
They're selling
You
the
do
wrong
the
product.
same product, they are going to do
Exactly.
the same thing. Right.
So the
They,
$1 million question is, what
they,
happens if somebody points out to you how these similarities, if applied within the confines of the law, can net you just as much money?
right.
Just
Right.
as much money and peace on top of it. Not just the money, but you don't have to look over your shoulder,
Fail.
right?
That's
So
real.
it's trying to put these things in context, and really trying to make everybody understand that you went to some type of college, school of hard knocks.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
paid attention in that class, right? You didn't pay attention in economics 101 and business 101, but you listened to the song enough times that you got the principles of it
Right.
and you apply it. Now just apply it this way. Just
Right.
alter the
Exactly.
hustle slightly. And all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation that's not only lucrative but also rewarding.
Now, so okay, I'm about to tell my age, so no, well, not my
Okay.
real age. I'm not gonna blurt it out there, but you'll know what I mean.
hmm
So I remember when Rappers Delight
hmm
came.
You just told your age. Go ahead.
I remember being in junior high school and that like people wrote down the words so they could remember. It's spark fun. And the only
Exactly.
thing today that I actually have known word to word the whole word song.
hmm
But at the time it was considered, I guess, very fly by night. These kids trying to express
Do
themselves,
something.
a lot
Exactly.
of that. So and hip hop has really evolved in a way that has been fun to watch
hmm
in a relatively short time. It dominates the music industry worldwide,
It,
not just,
exactly.
and
It's
it
popular
started.
culture now.
It's
Absolutely.
extremely pop culture, and you can turn on any international channel or go on YouTube, and people are rapping in other languages. I don't even think they know where it came
Absolutely.
from. So
Absolutely.
I wonder, since you are talking about, folks that sell drugs or entrepreneurs, when this type of music came to be, was the business plan this and we just weren't clued in on it? Or
So,
was there
all
an
right.
evolution along the way?
So I think, okay, you know how they say art is art,
Hmm. Hmm.
business is business, and every business has a plan. Forget the details of the business, right? So
Hmm.
as they create this music talking about the business they do, they tell you the rules of business. It's there. You just have to be able to decipher it. That's why it's called the G code.
Right.
It is a code. You have to figure out how to pull the good parts of it, how to pull the logic of it and make it applicable to you.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's there. Was it intentional? I don't know, but it happened, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, I mean, it again, like I said, I'm thinking, at the time, none of us took it seriously, other than it was just cool music. But
Right.
if I'm thinking of the people that it came from, there may have been a whole nother
Of course.
quote unquote business plan, like every other corporation, that we couldn't even envision.
We couldn't fathom. Exactly.
Right, correct.
Exactly. And you have these golden eras, right? So you figured like that 90 to 96 golden era when it stopped being melodic dance music and started to get super lyrical.
Hmm.
Well, all you can talk about is what you know. So
Right.
the lyrics tend to reveal more than people intended to reveal. And some of these lyrics, just like you and Rapper's Delight, I remember when Nas' album came out, I was what, 16 or 17 at the time, his very first album. And I could quote for you the first part of a song that verse has shaped my entire life. Literally. And it just happened that way. Like it's tattooed on me.
Do you think that's the reason why the business has been so explosive? That there's some, I guess, therapeutic components to it. There's some relatability connected to it.
So
What
it's relatable,
evolved into
right?
what it is today?
Right. It's relatable. Number one. Number two, you get to express yourself. But when something becomes popular, it inherently becomes lucrative. Once it
Mm-hmm.
becomes lucrative, these guys start to explore business. Right.
Right.
So when you listen to Jay-Z's last album, 444, and he tells you, I'm just trying to give you some game for 9.99, he's telling you,
Say 9.99.
right? And here's the funny thing about it. He even named the albums like this is the blueprint. This is how
Mhm.
you do it. This is the blueprint part two. This is the blueprint part three. It's literally instructional manuals. Like, you want to make it, this is how you make it.
So, okay, so are you talking when you write this book, were you talking
Mhm.
from research or experience or both?
So it's partially autobiographical.
Okay.
It there's some involved, but most of it, I have to tell you, it's a life experience. There's a line J. Cole has, and I'll clean it up because obviously we're on your show. And he said the good news, brother, you came a long way. The bad news, brother, you went the wrong way. Like, that's one of the most powerful lines he has to me. And I
Mhm.
talk about that in the book because, now no one wants to read. Well, reading's not fundamental anymore. When we were growing up, reading was fundamental. If you didn't read, you didn't know.
Right.
Now, there's a million ways to access
To get
information.
information.
You don't even have to be able to read. You can scan stuff with your phone now and it'll read it to you. So you could
Right.
technically be literate and still learn. And these are the gems that's hidden. It's like, where do you put your emphasis? Where do you put your energy? What are you really trying to do? Because if you put your energy in the right places, the results will always be good. If you put them in the bad places, the results will always be bad. And
But
and that's what it's about.
but you tap on something there.
Hmm.
You know, reading is becoming different these days.
It's
We,
different.
we aren't reading in the same way that we did back in
Correct.
the day. So and you're probably in that age range and audience where video, social media, those types of platforms are where people are really putting their
Hmm.
emphasis. Why a book? Why did you say, and how are you getting this book into the hands of your audience? What are your channels of distribution?
So here's why I picked the book. I picked the book because there is something personal about a book. Not just the nature of the pages, but the tactile part of it. You could touch it, you could hold it, it becomes yours. I wanted a sense of ownership. You don't own a YouTube video. You don't own a podcast. You don't even own a TikTok. It's there for the seconds and you kind of experience it and it goes on. With the book, remember, half of it's a workbook. You put it in your hand, you make it yours. Now, there's still the digital experience when you scan it because I know that's how you accept and take in information. So I'm going to give you the medicine in a spoonful of sugar, if so to speak. But at
Right.
the end of the day, I want you to have something tactile that you could hold in your hand. And I'll tell you, physical books still outsell digital books to this day.
Really? I
Yes,
gotta
still,
say.
yeah,
And the
still
only reason
does.
why I say that is just, well, I guess you can do it through Amazon. I was about to take it back because,
Mhm.
bookstores are essentially gone. It's like, you just like one still left in Miami that I know about.
Right.
So,
But people still buy physical books. And there's something to be said to passing the message on and you having your personal copy. Once you have ownership, once you have yours, there's a different attachment to it. And
mhm.
it's a manual designed to help people in their career professionally, help them find their speed, help them find their pace, help them understand that there is no race, so to speak.
Okay.
Find your pace, win your race. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So I
exactly.
want you to have that thing. I don't want it to be, oh, I listened to Lamar's book on Audible and it's cool and I can't reference it. No, put it on the shelf. Go back to it 4 years from now. See
And
what's changed. It's experiential. It's a workbook. When you fill out these pages, you could get a notebook and attach it to the workbook and do it again when you're 5 years older. So it becomes a tactile thing. I didn't want it to just be experiential
well, did
on the
you,
surface level.
so you're a sales professional.
I am.
What aspect, now looking back on it, because I'm assuming you did exactly what you're telling others to do, kind of go
Hmm.
back and what aspects of it do you think really resonated with driving your success as a businessman?
The number one, it's an understanding of the vision. Understanding the vision, having a sense of purpose clearly defined, and knowing what success is. So I'm going to quote a little rap song for you, right? And I'll clean it up, I promise. Visualizing the realism of life and actuality. Who's the baddest? A person's status depends on salary. And my mentality is money orientated. I'm destined to live the dream for all my peeps who never made it. I heard that when I was 16 and I believed it.
Okay.
Think about it. When you're 16, think young male. When you're 16, it's about who's the baddest. But the first line says it's not about who's the baddest. A person's status depends on salary. It's like,
Okay.
get it together, young man. The metric in America is wealth. It's not who's tough. Tough only lasts so long. Everybody's tough till they get old, right? So
That's,
that put it in
that's true.
context for me very quickly. I internalized it. Like respect has a dollar sign next to it in this country.
That's
It
true.
does.
That's
It
true.
does. And it put it in context for me very quickly.
And so then your audience would sort of be, initially would be young people at that age, that
At
16
that
year
age.
old that
Correct.
that you were, and saying, okay, this is the roadmap. All you got to do is follow.
Clear as day.
Okay. Okay.
Clear as day. Yeah.
So now, okay, here's one of my questions. So I'm an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
I'm a new entrepreneur. First of all, do you recommend that it's for a someone who's starting a business, or do you recommend this for somebody who's been in the game for a minute?
So the way it's designed, if you're going in fresh, it's perfect. But
Okay.
if you're in business and you kind of hit that ceiling and you can't figure out how to get to the next level, it's
Okay.
ideal for that as well.
Okay. Okay. And it's
So
it's
the book is designed to meet you where you are.
okay.
To
Perfect.
yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. So and it's easy. So I could definitely do that. Which I like to read. I just never have time. That's the sad part about it. So let me see. I got some good questions here. I know. Um, business explain. So I guess so. Publishing. Okay, we talked about
Hmm.
publishing is a $29 million industry.
Hmm.
Music, 16 billion. Hip hop,
Hmm.
7.7 billion. Uh, I mean, you have the potential here to really um, build this in a way that is quite exceptional because it touches so many areas. Again,
Yes.
as you're writing this, did you write out a business plan that says this is where this is going, or did this happen organically?
So there is a chapter in the book called The Synthesis of All I Know.
Okay.
And I've always believed that everything you go through in life teaches you and prepares you. So I'll give you an example. And this is kind of like a short version of the chapter. I started out as a music lover. I
Hmm.
went to art school because I was artistically inclined. Once I finished art school, I ended up at MTV for a little while. So I learned about music production, music business, right? Finished that. It was a short stint. I ended up in Home Depot of all places. But while in Home Depot, I picked up some things
Right,
that
right,
I
right.
was able to add to my repertoire. When I went to corporate America, I advanced quickly because of what I learned at Home Depot.
Okay.
Not
Okay.
any, not in college, in Home Depot. Now I took that information, built on that, ended up going to Nova right here in South Florida, got my master's in business. So everything builds on everything, and it's about connecting all the dots. So let's bring it back to rap. Think about it when you're rapping, when you're freestyling. You got to connect the dots very quickly. It's a
Wow.
style of thinking, it's a way of communicating that develops your synapses, and you communicate faster and better with a cadence and a style that nobody else has. That's one of the simple things rap teaches you. Most people are afraid to talk. Well, if somebody thinks they're a rapper, whether they're good or not is completely irrelevant, by the way. If somebody thinks they're a rapper, right, they're going to practice rapping. They're going to practice performing in front of people, speaking in front of people. They're going to be challenged to freestyle. They're going to be challenged to battle. That's tactical thinking on the fly.
Uh-huh.
These are
Uh-huh.
all things that hip hop has taught me.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I see how it applies in corporate America because when I have to do a presentation, I'm flawless.
Okay.
Even if
Okay.
sometimes it's a little foggy and the data doesn't match up perfectly, I can speak to it and I can improvise. I can handle questions. I can operate at a certain level because I've trained my brain to think a certain way. Nonlinear thinking is a beautiful thing, but it's not
I agree
something
with
that we
that.
practice,
I
right?
agree. I do agree with that. So, how do you feel your corporate counterparts see you in this? You know, do you think they're looking at you going, he?
So my corporate counterparts, they didn't really know this part of my personality until the book was done. But
Oh,
yeah, but it was funny because some of my coworkers were the first people to buy the book. And a
oh.
lot of people came back to me and said, okay, this explains so much. I get it now. Now I
Are these
understand.
people like Harvard graduates? Like, because
Yes, they are
this.
upper echelon, executive level, C-suite people.
So,
Absolutely.
so then, how are you finding
Hmm.
because I do think it's a very different way of approaching business when you learn business at an Ivy school, Ivy League school.
So,
Um,
absolutely.
business at even a college of some kind, and then
Hmm.
business on the street. I think there's a benefit and a disadvantage to both
Absolutely.
sides. So,
Absolutely.
how did you see that difference? And did they see that difference, or are they seeing it now after
They
the book?
see it now. I saw it initially. So one of the things, there's a prodigy from Mob Deep verse where he says, "Temperamental, I snap quick, very touchy. My attitude is all messed up and real, blah blah blah." Right now,
Mhm.
here's the thing: when you're outside in the street conducting business, having a short fuse and big bravado and an attitude and being quick to snap, it's a
Mhm.
defense mechanism. It keeps you safe. It keeps danger away.
Mhm.
You try that in corporate America, you get chewed up. In corporate America, it's quite the opposite. The person who stays the calmest wins every
Right.
single time. The one who doesn't allow anger to cloud judgment wins every single time. So it's like a juxtaposition. Like some of the things that work outside don't work inside,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
Right.
it's knowing the difference and seeing the difference. And here's the thing: if you understand how it works outside, all you have to do is switch it the opposite way, and now you know how it works inside without going to business class,
But coming
right?
from, for lack of a better word, the school of hard knocks, you should have
Exactly.
known that anyway. Like you
Well,
know how to maneuver the game a little bit better than most.
as a matter of fact, you do. And if you think about it, the consequences of making a mistake in business outside of corporate America could often be your life. So
Hmm.
it's less forgiving, which means you become better and more strategic about the choices that you make,
What you mean,
because the downside is horrible,
right?
right? The downside is horrible.
Corporate America, if the
Exactly.
worst you got
So
is firing,
exactly. I mean, corporate America, it goes bad, you find a new job.
which,
Outside, it goes bad, it goes bad.
which to your point, that's one of the things that I've been an entrepreneur now for a minute, and
Hmm.
I can distinctly tell the difference from people who have come from a different space. And what I
Hmm.
really find from folks that's in that world, in that space, is gutless. I mean, I'm sorry, um, courage,
Yes.
bravery,
Hmm.
just going in and going for it. And I don't even care if I fail. I'm gonna make this bird come hell or
Absolutely.
high water, the whole nine.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
you're looking at them going, but you do know that's not how that works. And they're like, yeah, it's
Right.
the
Where's
way
your
I want
business plan? Right. Where's your business plan? Or the
I
business
think
plan
I
is
should walk in
simple.
the door and sell some stuff.
Exactly. The business plan is simple. I have plan A, and plan B is to make plan A work. That's the plan. All right. Now let's go forward.
but but that's back to your point. Are you in this book sort of saying, okay, that's sort of maybe your initial entry
Mhm.
into corporate America. But
Correct.
now, as Jay Z has said, now that you're there, you're going to definitely have to evolve and walk the walk and talk the
Ex-
talk.
exactly. You're going to have to be as open to learning that culture as you were open to learning hip hop culture. You're going to
Okay.
take these lessons that give you a strategic advantage, but it's not an advantage until you learn how corporate America plays, and then you apply what you know on
Mhm.
top of what they know, right? Because they'll never have the lessons you had,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
All they
Ab-
know is the corporate way. You have their way, which you can pick up in a class, you could pick up real
mhm.
life experience, but you also have the other way. And when you combine both, you play at a different level.
Now, have you learned or I guess made an experiment out of it? Are there people who have read this book and are now starting to evolve or change the way they operate?
So what I
And what's
will
the
tell
goal?
you is I'm in a fortunate position. I have a pretty large team reporting to me, and some of my younger guys. I've
Okay.
watched them read the book, and I've seen how they all of a sudden now they have a different appreciation for the culture that they come from, specifically meaning hip
Okay.
hop culture. They
Okay.
don't view it as I have to clean up and be perfect. Like, no, you can be you, be authentically you, right?
Mm-hmm,
And
hmm.
understand that there's some strengths to how you are, and there's some drawbacks. Draw on
Right.
the strengths, let go of the drawbacks, integrate what you know with what this new environment that you're new to, and sky's the limit. So yeah, I
Cool.
see the change.
Very cool. Very cool. I gotta say, I think it's a very impressive idea. I haven't purchased the book yet, but I'm gonna work it. I'm gonna do that. Can you tell us how we can buy the book though?
So the best part about it is, prior to August 28th, you had to basically go to my personal website, but now it's available on bookbaby.com, amazon.com, barnesandnobles.com. Basically, anywhere they sell books, you will find my book.
Oh, cool. And
Yeah.
what? And how do we get to you if we wanted to talk to you? And
If you specifically want to get to me, you can go to the website. The website is GCBTB, which stands for G Code Behind the Bars, gcbtb.com. You can purchase the books on there as well. And there's a message function, so you could message me directly if you have questions or just anything that needs clarification.
have you done any book viewings, book
So
signings?
I did an event on July 7th, kind of like a book launch, and then Broward County Libraries, they had an event for 50 years of hip hop, and I think my book hit the sweet spot, so they invited me to be a speaker.
Oh,
I
nice.
did that a couple of weeks back. That was nice, and I have some other things in the pipeline coming up soon.
Very nice. We'll keep our eyes out for you, and please share what you're doing. I'll share with our audience and let everybody know
I
what you're
promise you
doing
I
so they can
will.
step up.
I
Thank
promise
you
you I
so
will.
much for agreeing to do that. Like I said, I think it's a very interesting. I think it's just interesting now. We're really starting to take that hip hop itself and the stories that come out of it and put it in as an educational tool in many ways.
Absolutely,
Both
absolutely.
for its oratorical value as well as what it can teach you on the streets. I think that's very impressive, and I'm so glad you did that.
It was my pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.
You too.
Sorry about that. So I just wanted to say thank you all for joining in today. We had a lot of people tuning in today. See what happens when you put the right subject matter and this right guest on the show. You get a lot of people tuning in. Thank you so much for joining me. We will see you right back here next week at 5:30, streaming live. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for staying tuned in. And we will see you next time. Talk to you soon.